Okay, I'm so excited today to have Malia with us. Malia is a 7-year veteran preschool teacher, and she's also a dear friend. So if you were to know her, you would know when your friends have kids, they are so excited to know that Malia will be their kids' preschool teacher. So I am asked her to come today just to kind of share a little bit more about her experience with preschool. I am not experienced in the preschool world, and it is its own entire world, at least to me. And so we have her here. So Malia, do you want to do a little quick intro, kind of maybe like how you got into teaching preschool?
Yeah, thank you so much, Elizabeth. This is so fun. Preschool is something that surprised me. I didn't know that I wanted to teach preschool. It was one of those like, oh, I need a job and I have two little kids. I think preschool could work because then I could put them in the preschool. um, but it just became a passion, and I love everything about preschool. I didn't think that I would. I think before I had kids, I was like, oh, those little ones, they're so cute, but who could be there all day with them and do all the things? But as I just sort of stepped in, it was just this beautiful surprise of fun. So I love preschool. Yeah, I didn't mean to be a preschool teacher. I wanted to be an artist. I kind of got to do both, which I love. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all fell into my lap.
I love that. I feel like preschool is definitely a whole lot of art. I mean, more so than probably any other age.
So fun.
That's perfect combination
Yes,
together.
totally.
I know that we've talked about before just some personal conversation about the idea of play in preschool. So I was wondering if you can just kind of share more about like how play has transformed the way that you do preschool.
No, I love that. And I think it's something that like people are researching more now. Like I don't think when we were in preschool, people cared that much about play. I mean, I know that they knew it was important,
Mhm.
but there was also like this idea of also it's important to stop playing because then you'll start your education time. Play is like the extra, and the academic part was more important, I think. So there's a lot of worksheets and sitting still and listening to a teacher talk. And a lot of that has changed, which is so encouraging. It's so cool to see how play has become the educational tool that is used to help kids to learn. And I think Maria Montessori, she's like the lady. She said that play is the work of kids.
Yes.
And it's so, so true. Like when you see them, there's like this thing in the brain called the state of flow. When you're in it and you're like, time just goes by and you don't notice. It's because you love what you're doing. And when kids are playing, you can just almost see that they're in the state of flow. Like they're not interrupted. If they have a long chunk of time to play, it's where their bodies are moving, their brains are thinking on a higher level of problem solving,
Mhm.
of creativity and working together as a team. Like everything you can teach can be taught through play. And I love that about it because it's so like it's been put inside of us. Like we were made to play.
Yeah.
So it's a great tool, and it's not just a tool, it's like all of it. So playing to learn is the like our school's motto, which I love.
I love
So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
it. Do you ever feel like you have maybe parents who come in feeling like maybe just not being able to see like that value of, um, yeah, of play, or if they're just feeling more like we need structure, we need to have like they need to learn their ABCs. Like, how do you, yeah, deal with that?
Yeah. Oh no, it's super common. I teach the threes and fours. I've been in pre-K, which is a little more like, okay, we're getting ready for kindergarten. You need to know a couple more things than just how to, play really well. Threes and fours is like, let's just have the best time. I do know, I think you can sneak in a lot of that stuff into the play. So if learning your alphabet is the goal, like let's really work with putting a lot of manipulatives that have the alphabet. We'll work on putting some things out that kids can play with and actually get their hands on,
Yeah.
whether it's through Play-Doh or through anything you can put literacy into, books, songs. All of that's going to help that piece of literacy come more naturally than just sitting down and trying to force a 3 or 4-year-old to write. Like,
For
it's
sure.
just not developmentally appropriate yet. So
Yeah.
we just try to explain that to parents. Some of them don't agree, and that's okay too. But it does come so naturally when you have that foundation of play.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so what do you think about, do you feel like there's an age that is like that kids are ready to be in preschool? Or like how do you know that kids are ready or maybe not ready, or do you feel like everyone could potentially be ready? I don't know. I feel like a lot of people struggle, like, are they old enough or are they ready? So what's your view on that?
Yeah, I think it's such a personal choice for each mama. Like and each kid is so different.
Yeah.
Some kids are born like I was born for school. Like I love the kids, I love the structure of it. I love being with my teacher and being more independent. And then other kids come in and they're like, this is really hard for me. Um, so I think you don't know until you try a lot of times. And I think I would advise someone who's not quite sure just to really build a strong relationship with the preschool teacher
Yeah.
and to be like a team to help that child succeed. And like I've had a couple of kids like where they would just really struggle, and it was like sometimes you want to be like, you can overcome, like you're gonna make it, and we want them to have that confidence of I this was hard and I now I love it.
Uh-huh.
But some kids you're like, this is traumatic maybe. So you don't want to cross the line into traumatic. Um, and obviously it is such a personal time and talking with parents about like how they feel about it. And if it's time to maybe take a year off and try again next year, so much development's going to happen in that year.
Yeah.
So there's no pressure ever. But so it's just, it takes a lot of like trial and error and seeing where a kid's at, but we want them to love school so much and not to feel like, oh, I did not like that when I had to go to school. So yeah, I think it is so personal.
That's great. I think sometimes, yeah, we feel like we have to, go by a number or a grade, and it can be so much more natural to just kind of feel it out and see how the kid is or the parents, or
Yeah,
both, ideally.
sure.
um, okay, so I've watched you before have like interact with kids and some of your techniques. I'm like, oh, that was a good one. She got all the kids to do something, that maybe someone else would have been asking many times for them to do. And she got to do them quickly. So I would love if you could share just any techniques you use in the classroom that you think parents could use at home. It could be, I don't know, maybe like getting kids to stop doing an activity to start something else, or transitioning, or anything that you're like, yes, we use this every day in the classroom, and maybe some parents could benefit from knowing these things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, I think music is like such a magical tool. Like when we watch Mary Poppins or any of those like Sound of Music movies, I was always like, wow, when she sings, everyone just like does what she says. And it's so powerful. And you don't have to have a good singing voice.
Oh, yes.
But to sing is so like kids will just stop what they're doing and kind of think, well, that was different. And I think getting their attention is half the battle, maybe like confusing them a little bit. But any kind of songs, like all of our transitions at school are songs. And I know as a mom, it's kind of like you're at a play date, you're not going to be like, now I sing, it's a little too much maybe. But I think that transitions are, if you can make them a routine as well, we have like just there's so many fun things you can do as a teacher, like as you know, like
Yeah.
macaroni and cheese, everybody freeze. And
Yes.
it's crazy how kids are like, oh, I want to freeze, I want to make a statue. And then teacher Malia will say, wow, look at that statue.
Uh-huh.
um, I think so, but they've done it every time we have to transition, so it becomes a habit. And I
Mhm.
think that you could use that as a mom is when your transitions are predictable and not like, oh no, we're late, we have to run. Like, but when you know, like, okay, every day we do this one little thing, and then at that time when I know it's time to go,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be as stressful for the child, like because it is so hard to stop what you're doing,
Oh,
especially when you're in flow and you're like playing. And for a teacher to say, now put down that and do what I want you to do, it's
yeah.
hard for adults.
Oh,
So
for sure.
if you can make it musical or fun or funny,
Yeah.
um, or and then definitely predictable and repeatable is the goal. So
Love that.
and different things definitely work better with different groups of kids. So
Sure.
you have to try different things. So
Everyone maybe wants to freeze, but I think that's awesome. I mean, I would. I mean, if someone sings a fun song, why not, right?
I'm in.
I think about singing, and it's like it's kind of hard to sound angry or annoyed when you're singing.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like just when I mean, for a mom maybe who's with her kids, it's like everyone knows they can feel frustrated when they've asked a child not to do something like 10 times, or they've asked to transition and they're not doing it. So I love that just song in and of itself is like positive and lighthearted, you know? It just
Yeah,
changes the
for
mood,
sure.
I think, which is really cool. Uh,
Yes, and there's so many options out there. Like if you Google just like fun transition songs, I'm sure you can like tool them and you can make up your own words, like
yeah. Why
for
not?
the situation. But and just being silly and having fun with your kids is so much fun, more fun than
Yeah,
I mean, we're not always silly and have fun. Like sometimes you gotta get going, but it
totally.
can. Like, so
But it's easy to get in the rut of like always reverting to like the taskmaster, you know, and instead of like, I can be fun or funny. I feel like I've had this conversation with a lot of moms, like, oh, you know, if there's a dad in the picture where it's like the dad comes home and they're the fun person, you know, because they're not sitting with them all day, you know, maybe like repeating commands, you know, over and over and over again. So it's like, wait, like I have, you know, I have the ability to be fun too. Like I can do this.
your fun power. It's so
Exactly.
good.
I love it. Um, okay, so next question. I thought about, you know, during this time of just the last year and a half, obviously with COVID, um, what are some things, I don't know if you've seen anything different with kids or like maybe apprehensions of them or just ways that they're playing differently, but like maybe things that we could share with parents that could just be some advice like with considering the season, you know, like
Yeah, yeah.
maybe kids need more of this or less of this or yeah.
Yeah, so challenging. And I think I really feel for the families that have like a one child and they've had to be alone
Yeah.
and so tough. And I have noticed this year is our first week of preschool,
Yeah.
and I've never had so many kids say, Teacher Malia, I want you to play with me. And I love that because I'm like, oh, they do love me, but I think it's because their moms and dads have been playing. They're like playmates,
Yeah.
um, because they haven't had a lot of social interaction. So I've been really thinking about how do you like lovingly
Mhm.
connect other children together and so that you're not the source of
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
because as soon as an adult gets involved in the play, it's kind of spoiled, like honestly, because either the child becomes like, okay, I'm going to tell you what to do, and they don't have to learn about teamwork or about compromise or about sharing because the parent will always like, oh, you get it,
Yes.
um, or the parent will be like, no, this is what we're going to do, so it's not that beauty of creative play.
Mhm.
So I'm trying really hard to make sure that kids are like, oh, let's see if she likes this. Oh, she does, like, so including them together and then kind of backing away.
Yeah.
So I know that it's so tough, but maybe just inviting a friend outside to play, if that's like, I know it's challenging and everyone has their different point of view on play during this season. But I think as many social interaction moments you can like create for your kid and then not be that center for them would be so helpful. I know it's so tough, and maybe we're all a little like, I can't play Barbies anymore. I'm gonna die. So it's good. Like, let's find you some friends, and if you have like a church or something, that would be ideal, or
Yeah.
anything you can put your child into that's not just you.
Yeah.
I know that's so hard, but I see it, which is so interesting this year. So yeah.
Really interesting. I think that's great. I mean, you wonder, you know, when people and just collectively are saying like they're so burned out, you know, especially for like working parents. It's like absolutely if they're at home with little ones who then become, yeah, they are the source of like creating play or keeping it going and that
Yeah.
exhausting. I mean, all the time, you know, obviously there's a time and place for that, but
Really, it's so beautiful to play with your child. I'm not saying don't do that. And just, like, it is kind of interesting how when you become the source of all the play, it's
yeah,
the best thing for them because they need to learn how to interact with for social emotional skills to be built.
yes,
The only way.
that's
So yeah.
great. That's really good. Okay, another question is I think about so there's this term which I'm sure you've heard of it before, but like a spirited child. So just maybe a child who has lots of energy, or maybe they maybe are you know, have strong views about things, or maybe they're just seem they're maybe curious or they always are getting into things. So what do you do or like how can you support how can you support or how do you support you know those children in your classroom? I think sometimes when you're at home with your own child, you know, it can feel overwhelming just to have an outside perspective of like, oh yeah, you can do these things to kind of make, yeah, life a little, maybe flow a little easier.
Definitely. Yeah. I think in the preschool classroom, it's definitely um those kids that need a little more encouragement to like to stop moving when it's time to stop moving, but always making sure that there's a lot of movement in the classroom so that they have a chance to like just express and to do the things that their body wants to do. Like their body's telling them it's time to start moving. And so as a preschool teacher, you can't be like, no, you have to actually like create the classroom to play to their strengths and to do all the crazy songs and the crazy games and lots of outdoor time and lots of play that's going to help them to be able to regulate. So that's a huge piece. And so I guess at home, you would have to be able to say, like, well, if you feel busy in your body, let's get that out and let's do some fun things like dancing,
Yeah.
like running around outside, even if it's raining,
Yeah.
like getting them into like sports. I know that's quite young to be doing sports, but anything physical is so
Yeah.
helpful. Like we have a couple of kids who are having a hard time to walk in line. So giving them also a task has been really helpful. Like if I have a little guy who's like, I just want to run through the parking lot when it's not time, I'll give him something to carry. And that heavy thing is actually, there's a lot of sensory research
Yes.
that's been developed over there's of like when you have something heavy like a backpack or something
Yeah.
to anchor you, it
Mhm.
makes you feel like not only am I helping my teacher, which helps me feel proud of myself, but this makes my body feel better, like not as untethered.
Yes,
So
that's a really
yeah, yeah. So that's really a helpful piece for us. And then just like having like a heart that understands that these are kids. They have been on this planet for 3 or 4 years, and half their life has been COVID.
yeah, I know,
And
right?
so they don't understand how to sit still yet. And it's not, and preschool is where you learn to do that for short periods of time, but also with a lot of fun
Yeah.
built in. Yeah, and just giving them jobs. I have an assistant that's fabulous at this. She'll have them like clean up the classroom with her and do things. And this one little bud, he was like, I feel so proud. Like you could see it on his face when I'm helping my teacher.
Oh,
And it was just a source of it. Instead of like sit down and be still, it was like, why don't you come help me?
yeah.
Um, and it's such a powerful tool of like building up what they do have instead of saying the negative all the time because they've heard that before and it just doesn't work. So you've got to come around with like the praise and the positive words of affirmation, and the opportunity to serve is such a big deal. So
Love that about serving. Remember just reading like, people's suggestions about things like this, and someone talking about like timeout versus like changing the wording of timeout to like
mhm,
time in, where it's like instead of sending them away, like bringing them closer when they're having those times. Um,
definitely.
is more effective, to actually like helping them regulate instead of sending them away alone to try
Yeah.
and sort out their feelings by themselves. I think about it like I remember in elementary school, we had like the remembering chair in the back of the classroom. It was like we all had this, if we weren't doing something that we were, or if we were doing something we weren't supposed to, we would be sent to the remembering chair. But it's funny now thinking about research with kids' brains. It's like most kids at, maybe age 5 don't have a lot of cognitive skills to think, let me remember, what I did and then think about a plan to do it differently. It's like they're just not there yet, in their brains. It's like
I have a hard time with that. I'm 40. I don't under like
exactly.
definitely. Shame never teaches us anything.
Yeah.
Shame closes us down. It makes our brains like not able to think. So anytime shame can be removed and like encouragement and affirmation can be put there, like that's when you grow.
That's so good.
Yeah.
I love that. Um, I think about some of we're getting close to our end of our questions, but one of our last ones was I was thinking about resources. So I think a lot of times, especially for preschool, I feel like there's tons of things that we can do. We can send our kids to preschool if we have preschool age kids, or we can buy things to do with them at home. I think sometimes parents feel like when our kids are at like 3, 4, like we need to do something with them, like um, maybe they just feel like they need to produce something else out of them. But for those who are feeling like I just don't have the skills or I don't have the time, do you have any like free resources that you think hey, if you're at home and maybe your kid is not in school, or maybe they are, and when they come home, you're still feeling like you want to do something more with them, that parents could kind of like go to, or maybe if it's like an online site, or even just some strategies or things to do without, curriculum, but just to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that. Yeah. I think that Pinterest has kind of like made us think like it has to be so beautiful and
Oh,
so like it costs a lot of money
yes. So
and
true.
that's just not true. Like we all know, like we joke about the kid who got the box for Christmas and that's more important than the actual gift, like because they just want to create.
Yeah.
I think if you take out the product and really think about the process of this stuff and think about how much fun are they having making this ridiculous thing that's not going to be put on Pinterest or Instagram or whatever, but it's just they're having the best time. So if you can kind of get your brain out of like making sure it's all perfect and fits together, because honestly, like you're doing all the work and not the child. So and I had to like kind of journey through this because I love beautiful things and making things look cute. And honestly, like that steals from them because the kid is the one that should be able to create this thing and the process is the fun part. So boxes are awesome and paint is fun and doing it outside is even better because you don't have to be messing up your house. People just paint forever. And even like I've seen some people do like water and brushes, and then kids are rolling on the side of the house with a roller and they think they're painting, but they're just having the best time. Um, super fun. There's all kinds of stuff at home you can do. You can't do this at preschool, but in the bathtub,
Yes.
um, making your own paint out of just like food coloring. And I think it was cornstarch. I don't know. We did it when our kids were little and they just like paint and it just washes all down. I mean, Pinterest has all these fun things you can do. Getting outside is so powerful. I
Yeah.
read something and I'm going to not know any of the sources, but that all of our memories growing up, most of them are outside because that's when our senses are like most alive. So we don't remember a ton about being indoors, but when we're outside, there's something about our brains like just really feeling present and like
Yeah.
I don't know all the science of it, but it's something really beautiful. So for a preschooler, everything's wonder, like that's the best part of it.
Yeah.
Everything's new. Like cutting open a pumpkin is like the most exciting thing. And to you, you've done it a billion times. So like, who cares? But as a kid can like get into a pumpkin and like start to play with it, the seeds,
Mm.
there's like endless activities you can do with just this little piece of squash that's not that expensive. But they're actually learning about science and how things grow and going for walks in nature, collecting random things and then creating something out of it is so fun for a preschooler, like sticks and rocks,
Yeah.
and then being able to paint them or put glitter on them. Like that is so fun. I know some families like that is like why you send your kid to preschool because you're like, I don't want glitter or paint or slime in my house. But there's just, yeah, there's so many fun things you can do that don't have anything to do with ordering a set. But if you just let the child have ownership of the process and like not try to get involved too much to make it extra cute and let them be proud of that whatever thing they made. It's so special for them. So I'm trying to think of any other free things that have been really special for our family. um, Cooking with your child, I know that that's another like, okay, we're gonna cook something, but pick something low bar, like maybe like those biscuits that pop out of a can. How fun is that? And then have your preschooler put them on the tray and they made those. Like
Yeah.
anything you can give them more ownership. And
Mhm.
the simple things are really the most fun things. And I think each parent has skills or things that they can show their child. So lean into your skills. If you're not a baker, don't try to do that. If you're not into art, don't do that. Do the things that you love. And as your child sees you having fun, they're going to want to do that too. So, yeah, I think it's just about being present and being with them and asking them lots of questions. Like open-ended questions are the best of like, what do you think is going to happen?
Mhm.
And they'll tell you something wild every time. That's the best part. And why do you think that happened? And have you ever seen that before?
Wow.
Those are the things that keep the conversation going and make it an experience rather than just like a I guess we have to do this today. So
These are amazing things, Malia, and I love it. I love hearing you talk about it because just from me knowing you, like I see it in your kids, and I see how creative your kids are, and I'm like, they obviously, have been able to see that modeled growing up. So it's really cool to see um, just the fruit of like when you give your child, the chance to take the reins, like all the awesome things that they do in life. And I mean, that's what we want for them, for their lives as adults, is for them to be successful in the way that makes them happy, like, and that they're doing the things that bring them joy. So it's cool to see.
and it's so much of me just being quiet mostly.
Hey, that's good. I can take some.
There's a giant mess behind our house. Okay, great. But to them, it's like they've created a masterpiece, you
The
know?
opportunity to do it is half the battle. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so awesome. That was it. All my questions. If you have anything else to share, or like, I don't know, words of wisdom, feel free now. If you don't, I totally understand too. I didn't tell you anything in advance about that, but yeah. Do you have anything else you want to share?
I mean, just like I have a 7 and a 10-year-old now, so we're kind of in this like preschool's in the rearview mirror. And
Yeah.
it's such a like season, like it's high highs and really low lows. And as a preschool teacher, we get to be part of the high highs a lot most of the time. But
Yeah.
I know that it's a really lonely, hard job too, like especially during this season. So I just feel like whenever moms come to bring their kids and you can just see like they're tired and they're worn out and they've had to do battle after battle, I just want to encourage moms, like it does get easier, and
Yeah.
not in a trite way like hang on to these moments mama, like that's impossible and it's so hard. So just be gentle with yourself, and yeah, let preschool teachers do their jobs and you love your kids and don't feel any like pressure to be that perfect
Yeah.
parent, because you're just, you're the perfect parent for your kid, and that's why you have them. So yeah, just it is get way easier. So it's a challenging and also beautiful time, but it's wild.
All in one big ball. I love that. That I think we all need to hear, just like the encouragement on the long days, the late nights,
Yeah.
it's so good to put it into perspective. So thank you again for coming and sharing. Honestly, you could just go on and on. I'm like, I think we could have
So
done
fun.
15 questions.
And I feel energized about talking about all this stuff. So I'm talking with you, Elizabeth. It's so fun. Yeah. Thank you for letting me chat with you.
Yes, thank you for joining me, and I will see you really soon.
Love you so much, friend.
I love you too. Bye.
Bye. Oh, do you want to leave?